Okay, so first up, we have Bowen Moody. He's the CEO and co-founder at Wonderway. Bowen helps companies set up their salespeople for success through better training. Next up, Carolina, Senior Account Executive at Mid-Market for Dash at EchoBot for the Dutch region. And Deepak assists B2B businesses in driving revenue growth through strategic prospecting and closing techniques at Leadfeeder. And he's the director of PLG. So we'll go ahead and get started if everyone just wants to say a quick hey.
Hey.
Hey everyone, Happy New Year.
Deepak, I'm a little bit disappointed that you've got this virtual background on.
I know, he looks really professional.
Yeah, aren't you sitting in a yurt right now?
I'm just outside it. There's a lovely little garden here and a nice place to sunbathe. I didn't want to tease those attending today, so that's why I opted for this more professional background. But now that you brought it up, I may just remove it.
Yeah, give us a
look. Right.
I'm curious.
Let's go ahead and get into it. So what we're going to do is put up questions on the screen, and then each of the panelists will go through and give their opinion or answer to these. And then at the very end of the webinar, we'll go ahead and open it up for questions to everybody. But if you have any questions or comments, you can write in the Q&A here in Zoom, and we'll make sure to get to those at the very end. So the first question is, how do you see the economic recession impacting B2B sales and distribution in the coming year? Bowen, do you want to kick it off?
Yeah, I can go first. Yeah, so I think from our perspective, one thing that we've built our sales plan around is that we're expecting outbound to be a little bit harder this year. I think we already saw that last year, but I think in this current environment, it's going to be harder to convince people to buy tools that they don't already need. So I think we've seen it, like reaching out to companies and trying to convince them to buy something that wasn't already on their radar is much harder than it used to be, and it's resulting in much longer deal cycles. So I think that's something that we're definitely expecting from our side, and we've built our sales plan around that. I think the other thing is that we just expect that, yeah, I think this, but I think with that in mind, then also like finding intent is going to be much more important. So from our side, we've basically rebuilt our sales plan around shifting some of the resources out of outbound and more into brand building to direct traffic, educate people on our problem, and then trying to find companies that have intent that we can tap into. Because I think it's just much easier to close people that are already looking for something than trying to convince them from the outset. And this has always been true, but especially in this environment, then it becomes even more important. So I think they're kind of the two main things when it comes to distribution. Other things that we're looking at from a business is we're looking at like we're mainly looking at how we can increase our win rates. So when it comes to the deals we have in the pipeline, we've kind of accepted that we're going to have less leads than what we had last year. I think when we built our sales plan going into 2022, we had this like up and to the right plan on lead flow. So we're just expecting to increase leads consistently every single month. But this year we're expecting things to stay maybe a little bit more stable. We don't think it's going to be that easy to just keep continuously increase the number of leads. I think the reality is there are just less companies buying. So we are switching our focus more onto how we can maximize the win rate. So really focusing on like the best fitting companies for us. Really like actually, accepting that there's less leads and really trying to work out how we maximize the win rates and the conversion rates on those that we have. And I think there was a lot of talk about this last year when the recession hit, but honestly, from the conversations we had with companies, there wasn't that many that were doing it. I think most of the sales calls we got on, people were still talking about like everyone was panicking. Maybe their leads had dried up compared to what they were forecasting, and they were panicking, trying to find ways to find more leads. But I think coming into the end of last year, maybe in Q4, people were kind of more expecting, maybe they'd reforecasted what their expectations were. And it's time to switch a little bit more to think about like, how can we get more out of less, do more with less, and focus on improving those win rates with the leads that we have. So I think that's kind of the main things that we're doing, and also what we're hearing from customers when we're speaking to them. How about you guys? Deepak, Carolina, who'd like to go next?
I love how you finished with trying to do more with less. In fact, I was going to start off my whatever I had prepared with exactly that, trying to do more with less. I genuinely think that those sales teams that opt for a multi-channel, personalized selling experience will win the game. Like you said, there's less companies buying, but those that are buying are making more informed decisions using the vast amount of information that they have at hand. There's so much information out there, so they're making a lot more educated decisions. So it's harder to predict exactly when a buyer will enter that funnel, right? It can happen at pretty much any stage. And on top of that, buyers are no longer tied to a single channel. So when salespeople are reaching out to their prospects, they really need to take that into account. Different buyers have different preferences, which means that which means that they can't expect to approach everybody in the same way. So for sure, that's going to be one factor. And then competition is going to be rife. Like everybody's going to go after those leads that are looking to buy. And from a sales perspective, it's going to be quintessential to essentially hold on and really cripple absolutely every lead that you have. You can't really afford to burn it. So maximizing and ensuring that you give it your absolute all in every single conversation.
So I guess I'll end this question and just give my 2 cents up on here. Because I'm the only one, so to say, in this round here, being the executive force, I'd say from my perspective, being an account executive, what is most important for me when preparing my pipeline meetings and my forecasting for this year will be flexibility. So there might be some rapid change in management, some rapid change in strategics or in other projects that my buying decision might be involved in, that are canceled. So I have to come up with another deal with something else to put up into my pipeline to fulfill my targets, to hit my quota. So the most important thing for me this year is flexibility, not only in terms of prospecting and closing, but also in terms of communication with my prospects. So as Deepak and Bowen already told us, they think that being very highly individualized with your sales approach is something that is super important for this year. We've seen that coming for the last few years, and I think we've hit a peak now, just because everybody's thinking twice or 3 times before purchasing a new tool, before buying a new solution, implementing something new. And yeah, flexibility and being on point it is from my end.
Is it just me, or are customers more demanding than ever before?
I think
yes. yes. Yeah, definitely.
Okay, great. Let's move on to the next question. Okay. Are there any changes in consumer behavior that you think will significantly impact sales in 2023? I guess we already started touching on that one, but go ahead.
I think unless someone is like 100% certain that the solution that they're looking at is going to fix their problems, they're not really going to go ahead and invest money into it. And they're not going to settle for sure. So you need to try and position your way in a way that kind of matches what they're after, and then foster that loyalty by delivering ultimately, and then keep generating sales on the back of that. So once you acquire someone, instead of trying to seek out the new customer that you're after, trying to see if you can generate more business from that existing one, because it costs, I think it's like 5 times at least more to acquire a new customer than it is to sell to an existing one. So I think there's going to be a shift in focus where companies are going to start prioritizing existing customers versus trying to take on new ones.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I think there's going to be there's a lot of customers churning at the moment. I know, speaking for ourselves, we had a couple of customers churn, and also speaking to others in the industry. I think, with the layoff, especially like we sell sales software, and there has been a lot of layoffs in sales teams, so reduction in seat counts, things like this that are happening across the board, that many companies are focusing a lot on retention, but as you said, also looking at how they can upsell their existing customers. So something that we're talking to a lot of companies about right now is many companies are looking at releasing new products, so looking at how they can cross-sell products into their existing portfolio, and maybe that could be one of the primary revenue drivers this year, rather than trying to always generate new business, because as you said, it's much easier to close business with your existing customers than always having to find new ones. Also, maybe connected to what you were saying before, Carolina, about deals getting dragged out, changing priorities, things like that. I think the other one that we're seeing is just people getting like, I think people are super nervous about making mistakes in this environment. I think everyone's a little bit like stepping on eggshells in their job. They're worried maybe there was layoffs in the company last year. They're worried about making the wrong decision. And I think this like fear of messing up is really playing quite strongly on people's minds. Maybe a year or two ago, if you bought the wrong tool, it's okay. It can sit on the shelf and no one really minds. But now everything's coming under more scrutiny. So I think this I don't know if you guys have read the book Jolt Effect that came out last year. I think the timing is quite good. But yeah, a lot of people just like second guessing every decision and don't want to be the one that's responsible for making a wrong call. But I definitely agree with you on that one.
100%, Bowen, and I just experienced that throughout the last, I say, 2-ish, maybe 3 weeks when having meetings with prospects and clients and people wanting to purchase our solution, because I have the feeling, but I might be wrong, so please correct me if I was wrong here. I have the feeling that nobody wants to be held accountable for a purchasing decision by now, because the budgets are like 50% of the budget of last year compared to it. And another thing that I experienced is I'm negotiating about a couple of €100 by now. Last year it was a couple of €1,000, but now we're just splitting ends on €500, €600, and I think that shows how the economic situation has changed throughout the last 6 months, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. Something I haven't seen so much that maybe goes against the trend is like, I see a lot of people talking about how CFOs and procurement are involved in all the deals. Personally, I haven't seen that, but I have seen more stakeholders. So I think there seems to be this trend that like people are trying to they're trying to consolidate tools across different departments. Maybe there's more stakeholders involved. But personally, we haven't seen that many like CFOs involved in decisions, but that could also just be us. Like we're selling more mid-market deals. Maybe if you go up to larger organizations and they have these departments, but Deepak and Caroline, have you guys been coming across CFOs and procurement teams more often, or is it just me?
I concur. We've seen a couple, but it's not very much the norm, very much like your case, Bowen. What about you, Carolina?
Well, due to the questions being asked in the chat, if I can mute myself. Unfortunately, I can't mute the background noise, guys, sorry, but I have had a couple or an increasing number of purchasing negotiation calls with purchasing departments in the last few months, definitely.
All right, we'll go to the next question. Sorry about that, Carolina. You do have background noise, but it's fine because when you actually speak, we can hear you clearly. So that's the best part. That's all that matters. Okay. All right. How can sales teams use technology and digital tools to their advantage in finding new sales opportunities in 2023? Anyone?
I can kick it off. So one of my priorities as the director of PLG is going to be looking into sales automation. I think sales automation is going to really help my team spend more time on the things that really matter and the activities that are really going to ultimately make a difference. So a common misconception that I hear among sales leaders is that automation takes away from the creativity aspect and personalization as they're trying to scale the process. But this isn't very much the case. It actually fosters creativity in the long run the more you delegate and kind of the more laborious tasks that you're able to take away from your day-to-day and essentially handle over to software to take care of, you have more time to brainstorm, and that then allows you to come up with more creative ways to sell your products and fine-tune your value of proposition and provide a more personalized approach. So I think it's really a win-win. And yeah, that's going to be one of my goals this year is how can we leverage sales automation a lot more. With Leadfeeder, we can already set up automated workflows, but we want to really take that to the next level using EchoBot as well. So yeah, that's going to be one of my priorities. What about yourself, Bowen? Have you got something in mind for the rest of the year?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree with you that something I'm hoping for is that we see more companies kind of leaning into technology. We saw that last year a lot of companies, they were downsizing, letting go of salespeople. I think everyone was kind of panicking. But this year, I can say from our board that we're expected to deliver the same results. Like we're still expected to grow just as much as last year, but we're expected to do it more efficiently. And I think that this is where tools really come in. So if we're not hiring the same number of people that we were last year, then how are we going to deliver those results? And I think tools is the only way. So yeah, I mean, hopefully that we see a bit of a rebound. I think last year everyone was just freaking out and maybe just we're just stalling all of their decisions, freezing their budgets. But coming into this year, I think that we'll see a bit of a shift there. In terms of what technology we're going to be using, I think, yeah, for us, I mean, something that we're definitely going to be looking at is ChatGPT. I think everybody's talking about this. I know it's a little bit cheesy, but from our perspective, we are investing more in brand and more in organic and SEO, and it's just such a no-brainer to use that for helping us to write blog articles, even social media content, stuff like this. It is like an easy win. Nazar, who's actually on the call, our marketing director, he's been experimenting with it, and I think it's like an easy one that I think a lot of sales teams will be leveraging this year.
But I might want to add something to that, to what you already said, Bowen, because of course you can use those technologies and you can use tools, but you have to use them efficiently. It doesn't help you anything if you have 12 tools at the tip of your at the top of your fingertips that you can use, but they just take away the time that you should spend on selling actively to your prospects and to the companies that really want to work with you. So by experimenting with tools, I would suggest everybody who is open to use those new tools like ChatGPT. I love them, but I took I gave myself a maximum time span of 2 hours to think for myself, do I really need this tool in 2023? Because otherwise you just get bombarded with possible ways to proceed, with possible things to implement into your sales cycle, and they will just draw the attention away to the most important thing, which is selling and closing deals, in my perspective, but I might be wrong here.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think it's just about finding stuff, as Deepak mentioned, like automating the busy work. So looking at automation, blog articles last year that I was writing blog articles, 2,000 word blog articles, which not that many people end up reading. We can see them, like the stuff like this. Then I still think we will still like revise them, but I think it's a good starting point. It can just cut down the time it takes to write an article from 3 or 4 hours down to 2 if you've got like a structure in place and a place to edit. So I think it's just about leaning in and finding where can you automate some of that busy work, writing articles, or it might be manual follow-ups in the CRM system or whatever that is, to free up your headspace and time to focus on the important stuff.
Something that's helped the lead feeder team tremendously has been using Gong, for example, to analyze our calls and pick out things and focus areas and aspects to improve upon, as opposed to having the sales managers, for example, listen in to those calls manually and trying to pick out something that essentially Gong can already come up with in a matter of minutes in most cases. So yeah, leveraging technology, but ultimately having a strategy behind it instead of just having that new tool FOMO, we need to try this out because everyone else is doing it, and not having a strategy to back it up or behind it. So yeah, really good points from both Bowen and Carolina there. Just really think about whether you actually need to use a tool. And if you are going to be using something, make sure it fits within your existing strategy.
It's interesting you mentioned Gong. We use it at Wonderway too, and we really like it. I think it's not just for the sales coaching, but also for product feedback. It's been super, super valuable. But one thing I will say is that it is very time consuming. That I do, for me, I do spend a lot of time watching Gong calls and talking about efficiencies and things like that. It does take up quite a lot of time at the end of the day. So I think it's great, but we're also talking with our team how we can use it better and trying to find ways to so I don't have to fish through the calls. Can the sales reps kind of like share snippets? Or I know they have some tools built into that, but I think it's a great tool, but can also be a big time suck for a manager as well. I think that's maybe a challenge with the tool, but I think still invaluable to give good coaching feedback, and also those product insights has been amazing. But yeah, personally, we're trying to find ways that we can make it a bit more efficient to get to the important parts.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. All right, moving on. Let's see, what new product or service offerings do you see emerging as trends in the next year, and how can sales teams make the most of them?
I have a sub question here
Carolina.
for Bowen.
Exactly.
Just
Yeah, go
because
ahead.
you mentioned ChatGPT, do you think that's going to replace marketers or salespeople at some point? Just opening Pandora's box here, by the way.
Definitely not. I mean, this is maybe a controversial point. I mean, there's, even within our company, people have different opinions on this. I can already tell you that it probably will replace, like, we've been using freelancers to help us write blog articles, especially those blog articles that you need to like rank higher in Google and stuff like that. You know, not ones that don't necessarily get read by a lot of people, but they just improve like the semantic core of the website. We were paying freelancers like around €1,000 an article to write them. And now you can basically do it for free. And I mean, in this case, it has automated this job to a degree. And I think if I was writing these sorts of blog articles, maybe I'd be worried. But at the same time, you know, I kind of question how valuable that role is anyway. Like if the role is to write blog articles that you don't expect anyone to read, it's just basically sitting there to rank higher in Google. How valuable is that? It's something, how rewarding is that, something to be doing for a full-time job? And is it a bad thing if this is getting moved to an AI that can do it for you? So I think it will automate some jobs, but I think only like the more low-level ones with, you know, writing these sorts of articles. But I think it's also going to be, I think there's going to be more and more quantity of this sort of stuff being put out, and it's going to be like anyone can basically just put out a blog post or a LinkedIn article, and I think it's going to, you know, there's going to be more and more, less and less. But really to stand out, then you'll need to be doing like proper thought leadership, and that's something that an AI can't do. So again, I think maybe tapping back into what you said before, automating some of this busy work to free up some of your time to actually like produce like real meaningful content is not a bad thing in my opinion. But yeah, how do you guys see it? I know there's other people in our company who disagree and they have like some more ethical concerns with this, but that's my opinion at least.
Well, to be honest, I tried ChatGPT for me as an email writing tool. So I just told the AI, hey, that's a scenario, please bring me an email ready to be sent out to my prospect. And the thing is, my target market is the DACH region, so Germany, Austria, and Switzerland. And the behavior of people with purchasing decision-making power behave a bit different to the US market. And ChatGPT was established in the US market. So most of the tonalities that this AI suggests to you is very American. So even though if I get a ready to be sent out email template from the AI, I will still have to rewrite it in a sense so that it's ready and okay to be put out to the DACH market. But nonetheless, especially the time reducing factor of it. So I have the scenario, I have an email ready and I just spend 3 minutes on rewriting it a bit so that it's proper to be sent out to the DACH region. And I can just copy and paste it every single time the same scenario arises, which will be the case because we have an upcoming recession. That's awesome. That's great.
I think it'll definitely reinforce and supplement, or at least provide a foundation for junior salespeople, or even people who are looking to improve what they're currently doing. From a coaching aspect, it's great. But like you said, Bowen, you know, the AI doesn't understand or doesn't yet comprehend feelings or emotions, and I think that's where the personal aspect of having someone do these tasks will help elevate. And actually, I think our roles are still going to be relevant. But it's good that we can still leverage AI to learn from it and get better in our role. So from the coaching aspect, I do think there's a lot of opportunity there. It can help provide us a good foundation that we can take and then do more with and get better return when we are contacting our prospects or sending emails and hopefully get better reply rates, for example.
I mean, from my side, I don't really see how it could write prospecting emails for us. I mean, at least I think the prospecting emails will always be specific to your company and industry and problems and things like that. But I think the things like spell checking and maybe giving a basic structure, it could speed the process up. But I don't really see it like replacing the entire, like, I don't think it can write cadences for companies or anything like that. That maybe like, I think especially in Europe, we have, like, in our sales team, we have some people that are not native English speakers, and maybe I could see them using it to grammar check their work. I think they're using Grammarly now, but maybe they use this and might give them some other ideas. But I don't see it like fully replacing the prospecting process or anything like that.
Cool. All right. I think that, let's see. We just did this one. Is that right? Sorry, I clicked wrong. Let me see. It's 9:29. I cannot see the questions in the chat. Can you guys see them?
Yeah, we have some comment of Yuri. I don't know if I should read it out loud, but it's basically the information was brought up that the email template, if we just stick to that case, that the AI provides us with when using ChatGPT, is depending on what information you type into in the very beginning. So yeah, of course, that's true. The AI needs to know the exact situation, otherwise they can't react to the scenario that you're just drawing up. That's right. But most of the time, I know highly individualized approach is the holy grail in sales, but most of the times you have some certain criteria that are more or less the same-ish from when comparing clients or when comparing prospects. So let's just draw the case. You have an offer that has been sent out, your champion is ready to buy, but the decision maker, the budgeting decision maker, is not happy with the offer just because you expanded their budget for 1,000 euros. So you have this scenario, and you will have this scenario coming up in 2023 once again, or twice again, or even more often. So you can use the template that you get from ChatGPT, just drawing the case that you busted the budget a bit at least. And then you can just rewrite the template every single time. But most of the times when I have a template, I try to put a bit of individualization in there nonetheless for every single case. Maybe I'm mistaken on using templates, but that's just some way to proceed.
I think I skipped a couple questions by accident, you guys, which is good news because it's only 9:31. So let's see. We didn't talk about workload in 2023, did we? We did already do that? All right.
No, we didn't.
No, we didn't.
No,
okay.
no,
I was like, I don't remember reading that one. All right. Yeah, go ahead on this one. Sorry, guys. I clicked an arrow the wrong way. So we have a couple more slides.
Maybe I can start with this one. I mean, I think it goes back to what we said at the start. It's about quality versus quantity. And I mean, I mean, I can speak for ourselves again, give a personal example. But last year, when the recession was first announced, we released a new product that was going to be helping companies in recession. And I think we spent a lot of time running experiments. So all throughout last year, we're running a lot of experiments, testing a lot of different ideas. And we basically took the learnings of that out of last year. And now we've funneled into a much more narrow go-to-market strategy for this year. So I think for us, we are focusing much tighter. I saw that there was also a question in the chat from Eric about having a more granular ICP. At least in our case, that's definitely the case. We really narrowed down our ICP, and we're focusing on having like less leads of a higher quality, and really trying to like filter out those that aren't a good fit early in the process. Because I think one of the challenges we saw last year, we ran a lot of experiments, we learned a lot, but we also created so much busy work for the team where they were spending a lot of time. Like we generated a lot of leads, but then those leads were really like wasting a lot of people's time. A lot of our sales reps were spending time with the wrong people, going through these drawn out sales processes with people that weren't really the right fit. And then they didn't close in the end. And it was a bit of, then I think the funny thing is the sales team was actually saying, hey, we need to hire more people. We need to get more reps in to handle the amount of leads. but actually when you look at the revenue and the win rates, then they were going down. So it didn't help us. I think we learned a lot, but we didn't actually help us close more business. So I think this year it's more about executing, taking those learnings, executing, narrowing that ICP. And that's definitely our strategy as a company, but also what we're talking to a lot of customers about as well. I think many companies, they did go through layoffs. Maybe they've got a smaller sales team, and they're looking at how they can make they can optimize the efficiency of every sales rep in the team to be bringing the maximum amount of revenue. And that's one of the easiest ways to do it, is just making sure that their funnel is filled with high quality leads, and they're well prepared to be able to make the most of them in there. But I think, making sure that the top of the funnel is filled with the right people is just a critical part of that. What about you guys? What have you seen a change in this in your organizations, like 22 to 23? Or yeah.
I just have a question to Deepak and Bowen, if you two don't mind, because I suggest that there might be two scenarios, or might be two ways that companies can choose now from. Because on the one hand, you can just be a bit harder and harsh in your discovery phase and only let the companies through that truly have budget, that are truly interested in purchasing a solution. Scenario number one. Scenario number two can be that you just overload yourselves with discovery calls and let people through to the demo phase, testing phase, send out offers, and then just bombard the possible clients with a bit of, discounts, for example. So would you say you would like your company or your teams to focus on a harder discovery, to only have the proper ready to buy clients in the demo, trial, and purchasing decision phase? Or would you say it might help to also have the possibility of many smaller deals if we just let more companies through the discovery phase and maybe close smaller tickets by the end of the purchasing journey?
I think personally, if you have to resort to getting discounts to get people to buy, those individuals are not going to stick around long as clients. Stick to the pricing. You had it for a reason. It's probably being chosen for a reason by the right individuals and business biz ops or whatever department in your company decides on the pricing. So I would say stick behind that, showcase the value. And I very much agree with what Bowen mentioned earlier in terms of getting a lot more granular with your ICP. I don't think you can afford to go broad. It's very much about using your timing effectively, especially when there's so many people going after the same leads ready to buy. So I would very much go with option number A, as opposed to just clogging up my sales team's calendars with so many discovery calls and then hoping a couple of them purchase just because they give them a good price, a discounted offer. There are people who are ready to buy at full cost, who see the value and will happily pay because they see the value and where that product fits in and how it's going to help them with the issues that they're having. So I don't think you need to go and degrade your product or devalue your product by selling it at a discount.
I think, if you can get smaller deals through, I think it depends. So of course, if it's just about like maybe if you're changing your whole go-to-market strategy, going up or down market, you need to of course make sure your whole business is set up for that, because it's different motions. But if it's just about selling the same product, maybe for like smaller deal sizes, getting like a pilot going with one team rather than the whole company. Getting one sales leader in. If you can do that, I think that's not a bad strategy, because I think, as we've talked about before, this like indecision in companies, long sales cycles, lots of people involved. If you can dodge all of that and you can get smaller deals done in teams, and then giving yourself the opportunity to expand them later in the year, that would be a really solid approach. I think, that being said, I'm not sure if that's going to be possible, because as we said, I think there's more stakeholders involved, more scrutiny. So at least from our side, we've found it harder to do that. I think, usually we even though we try to push that through, usually there's another stakeholder that gets brought in and it becomes these bigger projects, which is good. I mean, of course, bigger deal sizes, but for much longer sales cycles. Personally, I'd probably prefer to just get like lots of small companies in, focus on logo acquisition, and then expand them throughout the year. But the question is whether the customers are going to allow you to do that. I think it also maybe depends on the type of product you have. I imagine Deepak as head of PLG, you probably also, I think to do that, having a self-service free trial or something that allows companies to get started easily in one team would really assist with doing deals like that. But yeah, is that a new thing for you guys, or have you been how long have you been focusing on this PLG strategy at Leadfeeder?
So Leadfeeder has traditionally been an inbound-led organization. Outbound is fairly new for the company, kicked off just a couple of years ago. So we've always had the free trial, and people get a chance to explore the platform to its full capabilities for 2 weeks before making a decision whether to proceed after. And throughout those 2 weeks, they get a full taste of what it's going to be like using the platform if they do end up purchasing. So they have a chance to exactly see how it works. They can get the value and see what is what. And essentially, it makes purchasing a lot easier because they've had a taste of what it delivers. And we don't really have to resort to discounts because people see the pricing on the website. It's very easy to attribute the ROI based on the leads that they're able to generate. This is what a lead means to you. And this is what you're paying for the platform. This many leads you get for this cost. It's very straightforward to attribute ROI to. And yeah, that model has worked very well for us. And the purchasing is very much in the user's hands, right? They get to test the platform to its full capabilities and make an educated decision after their trial is up. Very easy, very straightforward. So we're not forcing anyone. We're just letting them explore the platform at their own pace. When they're ready to pull the trigger, it's very straightforward. Go ahead and purchase on your own time.
I think that's good. I mean, especially we talked about the indecision. I think this overcomes a lot of those hurdles, right? That if people are indecisive about whether they should move forward, it removes a lot of the risk that they're taking up front if they can try the product and see how it works. So I think PLG has been a big topic for quite a few years, but maybe we'll see more companies investing time in this now. Because I think it will help with the sales cycles and also lends into some of the efficiencies and things we talked about before. I mean, I can say we're a bit of an early stage company, but we're definitely looking to push further into this year. And I'm sure many other companies will be looking at the same thing. Maybe it's something that got deprioritized before. They were doing well enough in the boom times, that now this year might be the time to focus more on this like free trial and general PLG approach.
I think that's one way to circumvent the cautiousness, right? Like people are too afraid. I think Carolina mentioned earlier that no one wants to be that decision maker or the person who pulls a trigger because they're afraid that everyone's going to point fingers at them if something goes wrong. And so at least giving them the chance to test out the platform and then make the decision themselves after they've had a chance to test it out and get other parties involved, I think that kind of helps with that indecisiveness for sure. So I do think that's a strategy to employ versus giving discounts for the sake of acquiring users and then hoping that they stick around for long. Because yeah, from experience, if you have to give discounts, sooner or later, those are the same people that are going to start demanding X, Y, and Z, and essentially churning at some point or other. So yeah, I do think the PLG model is something that more companies should take into account wherever it's reasonable, wherever it seems right. It's something that they should definitely look into.
Awesome.
I
All
mean,
right. Oh, go ahead.
Maybe just on this discount. I mean, something that we took from Winning by Design is a big sales training company from the US. They talk a lot about not discounting, but trading. And I think this has been working really well for us this year because there's more scrutiny on costs. People are asking discounts. I mean, they always have, but I think as you said before, Carolina, people are literally sometimes negotiating over dollars and cents. And I think in this case, rather than just giving them a straight up discount, think about what other levers you might be able to have to trade with them. So, for example, we offer a lot of our customers, like maybe they can get 2 or 5% off the price if they do a case study with us, or if they make introductions to 3 other companies. So I think like always try to never just give straight up discounts to anybody, but I think if it speeds up the sales cycles and takes friction out of the deal, it might be worth trading with them. So just trying to find like what are some things that are value to you, that you can ask in return for a discount. And at least for us, this has sped up our sales cycles quite a lot, because sometimes it's just not worth haggling over those hundreds of dollars at the end. At the end, if it's going to draw things out and potentially get the procurement team involved or whatever, it's just quicker to find something that's mutually beneficial for both of you and get the deal done as soon as possible. So I think that's a strategy that's worked really well for us, and I definitely recommend it for others if you've got that freedom to do so.
I understand how hard it is to get case studies. I'm on the content marketing side, so I love that idea. All right, let's move on. I believe that this is our last question. What strategies would you recommend for businesses looking to adapt to the shifting sales landscape in the next year?
I wouldn't say that it's a strategy per se, but I would say a character trait that I suggest every single salesperson out there to have, or at least to develop over this year, is on the one hand building rapport with your prospects, because if you don't do that, they won't trust you with their money, their time, and also their name to be put on a contract and to be signed. And on the other hand, when you're working in CS or AM, reassuring clients that they have chosen the right solution for their needs. So also, if you have by now an onboarding that consists of a first kickoff meeting and then 2 trainings until the 8th week of the cooperation maybe, and then the client never hears of you as a CS or AM ever again, that might be something that should have changed this year, just because if I, as a client, feel reassured that I am working with the right provider, I will stick to the solution and not cancel my subscription and split ends on dollars or euros or even cents, as you just said, Bowen, and decide to go on with a cheaper solution, for example. So on the one hand, building rapport with prospects, and on the other hand, reassuring clients should be things that should be part of your strategy for this year, in my opinion. But Deepak, Bowen, your thoughts?
Yeah, I was going to say, just a reminder to companies out there, and I guess this has to come from leadership, right? Like, sales is no longer just about the sales team. We're all working towards the same goal, whether we realize it or not, regardless of what department you're in. Every single department has a step in the path to conversion. So customer support provides support to customers, marketing helps captivate attentions, capture demand, educate existing users, and the product team has to ensure that the offering can actually deliver, and so on. So everybody has a part to play when it comes to ensuring that those customers are first acquired and then satisfied through the product. So just ensuring that leadership does remind individuals of that. We're no longer siloed, or we shouldn't be siloed if we want to succeed in 2023 and beyond.
I mean, I think we've touched on quite a few strategies throughout the call. So I think all of the stuff we already mentioned, the quality over quantity. If you can introduce some sort of free trial or PLG to reduce the indecision. Of course, I think if you haven't already done that, looking at which industries are doing better in this environment, like healthcare companies, or I think restaurants and food, or restaurants were doing quite well last time I saw. Maybe reconsidering if there's other niches you could be looking at. And I think, Carolina, what you mentioned as well, like not just on a personal level for each sales rep, but also I think as a company, like investing more in brand and building up trust. At least for us, our cost per lead went up last year as sales cycles were stretched out. Cost of acquisition went up. So it doesn't, the business case isn't as clear for like investing in some of the traditional channels. Like we've shifted some of the spend out of ads because we weren't getting a good ROI on that. We're investing more in kind of long-term plays like brand and SEO now, which I think will help us like generate leads now, but also it's a long-term investment. So it will also help us when the market picks back up, be better positioned to take advantage of that. So I think it's not, you want to make sure that you're trusted in this environment. And again, doing everything you can to remove this indecisiveness in the sales process. So whatever that takes, building relationships, building trust, building, making it easy for people to make that decision, I think is just super important.
Nice. All right. We have the question section now. And before I jump into anything else, I got a message that we had a question for Bowen. So you mentioned that the focus is on branding and organic traffic in the very beginning. How do you think that this will affect SEO agencies? Do you think that the recession will work for their benefit?
Yeah, good question. I mean, I'm talking for us personally, so I can't say that's what everyone is doing necessarily. I would be more, if I was an SEO agency, I'd be more worried about ChatGPT, to be honest. Especially if it's about like, you know, these link building and writing these like kind of generic blog articles and things like that. I would be a little bit concerned if I was in that space right now. So maybe it's a good thing, but I can say for our perspective, we're trying to work out how much of the money we've been spending on in the past we can automate through ChatGPT and other like AI content writing services. So yeah, I think it's a hard one to answer, and also maybe not necessarily everyone is doing that, but that's our approach at least.
Okay, cool. Let's see, we've answered that one. I don't think, if anyone has any last minute questions, feel free to go ahead and put them in the Q&A. Otherwise, if the panelists have any final thoughts, I feel like we've kind of covered everything, but if you have any final thoughts, go ahead. No one? All good? All right. I don't think that we're getting any more Q&A, so we can just end now. So thank you everybody for watching and attending and participating in the chat. We really appreciate it. A recording will go out whether you joined us on LinkedIn Live or on Zoom. So thank you all and have a great Wednesday.
Thanks.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks, guys. Ciao.